there any other questions?
Just out of curiosity, I know Tesla seems to be the leading in like automated like travel, and I have several like some of my friends' parents like are thankfully able to afford this, and you can veer off like highways at this point. They can take exits. I'm curious where General Motors is at in terms of the technology and what like the cars that General Motors produces are able to do as of now.
Well, I can't reveal future product plans, but obviously, obviously this is like an arms race, right? So Tesla's systems are very cool. Their cars are very cool. I agree with you for sure. I would say the difference between the General Motors approach and the Tesla approach is that we still believe we need to monitor you while you're driving. You can see there's lots of scrutiny for all the automated crashes that go out. And it's not an indictment against Tesla at all, nor would I throw stones at them either. But it's almost like with this new technology, they want to investigate each and every crash to make sure that as the technology comes out quickly, that you're right, that it's not going to cause more problems. But absolutely, they can veer off. Right now, we say that single lane, we don't have our vehicles, our Super Cruise technology does not change lanes, but you'll see more and more advancements with all of that coming out on all the automakers.
Is GM working with other companies like Tesla or Mercedes because your goal is fully automated roads.
Right.
Are you guys working with other companies to work like intercar communications?
Oh, so absolutely. So for example, that's an actual excellent example. We can't do inter-car communications by ourselves. I mean, if GM only spoke to GM vehicles, I mean, that really wouldn't solve any of the problems out on the road. And the government actually estimates that when we have vehicle-to-vehicle communication, we can reduce crashes by 80%. So, I mean, that's enormous. So absolutely, there's a lot of different consortiums or groups through the Auto Alliance, through the Society of Automotive Engineers, where we all work together trying to figure out, hey, what's the best means of communication? Is it DSRC? Is it 5G? What's the common way we're going to do a lot of these things? And you'll probably also see that with the drinking and driving. This isn't like drinking and driving is a General Motors problem. So when those things come out, again, they'll come out consistently across the industry.
What kind of safety features have you implemented in autonomy? So what kind of things have you guys been thinking about?
That's a loaded question. I can't reveal future product plans. But obviously, there's lots of questions when it comes to automated. And for example, Safe Kids Worldwide is one of our partners, and they asked questions, what about kids in autonomous vehicles? What is safe for kids? Can a kid take an Uber today? Can I put my 9-year-old in an Uber? Can I put my 9-year-old in an autonomous vehicle? So those are questions that are obviously being asked. As far as the safety features that we're putting in our vehicles, we'll still have to meet all of the regulations. So whatever those end up looking like, they'll certainly be in the vehicles. But if you have a specific question, I might be able to answer it a little more in depth.
I was thinking more of how autonomy is going to decide between crashing into, say, a tree versus something else.
The age-old question, right. And you know what, I will tell you that I've even heard that question asked a little scarier. If you have a vehicle and it's going to hit a child or an adult, what would the vehicle choose to do? What would the human choose to do? And our answer to that is neither. The vehicle will stop. And that's what we're working on. We're really working on technology that will be robust enough to stop. And obviously, those are some of the ethical questions that everyone's tossing around on automated vehicles. Yeah.
Are you guys more focused on completely autonomous vehicles or accident prevention?
You have to tell me what you really want to be when you grow up, though. Weren't you the one that didn't have an answer to that one? I didn't even know what it was until I was halfway through my career at General Motors, so you'll get it. So as far as your question, are we more focused on automation or the road to automation? Was that kind of your question? Correct.
Because my whole thing is do you want completely autonomous world where everything's autonomous, no more driving, no more taxis, all that, or would you rather just have the vehicles, everyone controls vehicles? Let's say the person's in the way, it will stop for you.
Right.
There's these accident prevention tools that where you'll have reduced crashes because the vehicle will see it coming before the human can see it.
For sure. Well, and you know what, that's when I had mentioned, we have about 24, I think, active safety features, and it actually can do that. By 2022, all the automakers are going to have automatic emergency braking, and that actually can see a crash, sometimes before the driver does, and stop the car, or reduce crash speeds, or avoid the crash altogether by braking the vehicle for you. And so, to answer your question, we're working on both, because some of that reducing crashes on the way to automation is really going to help reduce crashes and fatalities. So we're always working to protect those systems. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety just came out with some ratings of our systems where it says, the blind zone alert as well as forward braking are effective systems. So we're absolutely working on both, and you'll see a lot more to come and be a lot more standard on vehicles that you'll be driving in the future. I think some of my favorites on those are rear cross traffic alert. So, you can imagine, right? We're here at Purdue, you're backing out of a spot, there's a million people walking back. It actually can alert you if someone's coming and points an arrow saying someone's coming from this way or that way. So as you're backing up, you can actually stop. Also the forward automatic braking, lane keep assist, so if you happen to be drifting out of your lane, it provides gentle steering wheel turns to help you stay in your lane. You can also see how technology is starting to take over for the driver, helping you stay in your lane. Just slowly having you trust your car before we reach full automation. So those are all the things that we're working on. And we also get the question a lot on, well, what about our teens? What about our kids who are learning to drive? They're learning to drive with all of these features. And one of my answers to that question is, they still learn. If you have a car that has this forward automatic braking and you're about to get into a crash and suddenly your vehicle brakes for you, clearly you were about to hit something. So you still learn, but without the injuries from the impact. So it's still a great tool for even the younger generation to use as they learn to drive a vehicle.
So for a lot of people want their cars to last 10 to 15 years, and when you have all these new vehicles with all the smart technology, but people are still driving old cars without it, how do you get around that? And also, with new cars, in 10 years they might be obsolete, the technology is advancing.
Well, so if we have cars from 10 years ago, the radio would not be acceptable to any of us, right? Nothing would connect. So to your point, obviously technology is advancing quickly. But, those vehicles, I always joke and say, if you have a vehicle that's 10 years old and I don't, I'm not going to hit you because my car is going to stop. So it doesn't necessarily make those vehicles out on the road obsolete. But as they are being replaced, we certainly want to upgrade with the latest technology, which is why we're trying to push V2V technology. It came out on our Cadillac CTS, where we want to make sure the vehicles are ready when they get there.
Safety-wise, for maybe the environment and the planet, how much have you dealt with lowering emissions for GM vehicles?
Personally, I have that is a whole group of people. But I have not worked on the emission side. I'm predominantly airbags, wrinkled fenders, and saving babies.
What was it that kind of made you want to, how do you know that the safety aspect is what you wanted to do? Do you ever kind of try out different areas within GM?
So when I first came to Purdue, I wanted to be a doctor. I was getting my mechanical engineering degree and I was going to go to med school. And then I thought, oh my gosh, med school is so long. I am not going to med school. That's insane. To keep in mind, I then got my master's and then I got my MBA, right? I should have just gone to med school, right? But I always was interested in that biomedical side. And that's where I'm saying, if you think back to the things that you loved, if you loved My sister loved sailboats, and she wants to design sailboats. She's also an engineer from Purdue, go Boilers. But if you think back to those things that you love, there's practical applications in your engineering degrees, in all of your degrees for them. But I really, I had no idea what I wanted to be. And then when I had to get a job, super bummer, I, just said, fine, biomedical engineering. That seems to be the things that I'm drawn to. And I did take, even after being at GM for several years, I did go look through electrical, through product planning, through innovation, trying to figure out what I really wanted to do until I figured out I really did love safety. So it really was a journey for me, and it wasn't something that I knew from right from the get-go.
Your undergraduate degree was in mechanical engineering. Do you think that people that have an undergraduate degree now in biomedical engineering, like how would they fit in, like working with GM and
Come work with me. We do hire biomedical engineers. We still have, obviously, we have, the straight biomechanics as far as crash tests. We still work with looking at different anthropometric ATDs, anthropometric test devices, and to see which ones are most biofidelic under certain circumstances. People have proposed using the global human body model, which is obviously a computer-aided design, like a CAE, a computer-aided engineering model, where you can actually show when it's like, for example, in a side impact, you can say, oh, the chest pot was, whatever G's. On the global human body model, you can see that you broke your thoracic, your T6 rib, where it's, or vertebrae. But so you can see far more fidelity in the design. So yes, we do hire biomedical engineers. And predominantly, they want to come work in safety, and they usually don't want to leave, but we still, put them through rotations. Go ahead, yeah.
Are there any HIPAA concerns with transmission of medical data for people who crash?
So yes, for sure. So we never say Tricia's, we don't know who's in the car either. So when we transfer the data, we don't know who's there, but we do work, that does bring up an interesting point, because we do work with universities where they see the medical data, and they're the doctors that have all the HIPAA, strip off all the names, and then we give the crash data, or they get the crash data from the actual crash. So then we're able to map actual injuries to crashes. So not only simulating with the crash test dummies, but to see what happens in the field. But yes, there's clearly HIPAA concerns with that, and we make sure that we don't, that we let the doctors clear all those. Mm-hmm.
Do you ever get a chance to discuss with people who work in kind of industrial manufacturing safety and kind of compare some of the ethical or safety concerns you face and kind of discuss those together?
We do all the time. So global vehicle safety and global workplace safety, we have Safety Week at General Motors, where it's all safety is important. So not only do we have, we also have a program called Speak Up for Safety, where you can report both workplace and vehicle safety issues, be it in a plant or anything like that, sharp objects. We've had situations where people have said, like, hey, there was a mock-up and there was a sharp point on it, we need to take care of it. But we also work together on distraction initiatives. I had mentioned, so there's no workplace crashes. You can see in a manufacturing site or at a plant where it's really paramount that you're not on your phone as you're going around. There's lots of different hazards that can happen. So that's actually where the whole no talking and walking or holding your phone to your ear came up, no double earbuds while you're walking. So that was an initiative that was done at the plant, and we just carried through to all of our workplace facilities as well as our parking lots. So all the time.
Do we have any other questions?
Has everyone signed the paper?
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your